What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. You know, at this channel, I get a lot of emails, and recently I got an email from a gentleman named Ray that believes I dropped the ball by telling people what cities and towns are most violent and not starting with the actual state version. He feels I should start with states, then cities, towns, small towns, and he said I should go on from there. What's after small towns, Ray? Maybe villages? After that, where do we go? I could do most violent middle school gymnasiums, most violent Goodwill drop-off zones. He also went on in length about what he believes is my average viewer's mental makeup and demographic. Congratulations, everyone. There's a guy in Arizona named Ray that believes if you enjoy my videos, you fall into two categories. You are either a college dude at a state school, or you're 43, you live with your mom, and you've gained so much weight you've moved on to an exclusive relationship with suspenders. Seeing that his email was a couple thousand words, I decided to push this video up on the list. I'd planned on doing it sometime in February, but Ray, you know, he just keeps emailing every day to ask how we're coming on this video, and I don't want Ray to blow a gasket. That being said, I guess the first state we should tell Ray about is Number 10, Oklahoma. Oklahoma ranks as one of the most violent states in the nation, not just because of its higher than average violent crime rate, but also because of the prevalence of gun violence in the state. They had a higher than average amount of people dispatching themselves. Now, I say it that way because of the algorithm picks up on the actual word, and it takes about 3 days for them to remonetize my video. So we'll be calling it selfing from this point on. I'm not making light of anything here, by the way, but it is the internet, so someone's going to be offended no matter how I put this. Before you leave the comment, though, remember, being offended, being upset is not a skill or a talent or a way to get attention. Moving on. There were 18.6 total deaths by firearms for every 100,000 residents over the last 5 years, and 12.2 selfings involving firearms for every 100,000 residents over the same time period. Now, I'm not blaming firearms. Sadly, people that have gotten to that point will find a way. It's not the firearms' fault. All I can say is be there for people you care about that are going through hard times. That's the best defense against selfings. Most violent crimes in Oklahoma are obviously committed in urban areas, like all states. Just 68% of the state's residents live in metropolitan areas, and over 85% of the murders and 77% of all the violent crimes were committed in the metro areas. The violent crime rate in rural areas rose above the national average in recent years. While large metropolitan areas are getting safer, the rural areas are actually getting more dangerous. The violent crime rate is 4.68 per every 100,000 residents in Oklahoma, and the murder rate is 6.2 for every 100,000 residents. Not good numbers. Number 9, South Carolina. South Carolina's crime rate is bad. If you're a tourist, you probably think that's nonsense. They do a really good job of hiding it, especially around Charleston. They have some cities that have fairly high violent crime rates, but their rural crime rate is bad. Now, to be clear, compared to a city's crime rate, it's not that bad, but compared to other states' rural areas, it's bad. One of the biggest contributors is South Carolina has the 5th highest domestic violence rate in the nation. There were 512 violent crimes in the state for every 100,000 residents in 2018, and that's compared to 381.9 for every 100,000 residents nationwide. South Carolina has a higher than average murder rate of 7.8 for every 100,000 residents. Nationwide, it's 5.3 for every 100,000 residents. Don't move here. Number 8, Alabama. Alabama has a higher than average violent crime rate of 524.2 for every 100,000 residents in the state. There were 20.1 total deaths by firearms for every 100,000 residents over the last 5 years in Alabama. There was a little over 10 selfings involving firearms per every 100,000 residents during the same period. When you have cities like Gadsden, Anniston, and Birmingham, you have to expect the state's violent crime rate is going to be astronomical, which it pretty much is. Alabama has also locked up more of the residents than almost any other state. There are 486 inmates in Alabama for every 100,000 residents. The murder rate in Alabama is 8.4 per every 100,000 residents. Not good. Number 7, Missouri. There were almost 10 murders in Missouri for every 100,000 people in 2019. That's the second highest murder rate of all the states and nearly twice the national murder rate of 5.3 for every 100,000 residents. Violence is so common in this state, it almost makes you feel like the residents are okay with it. Like, hey, it's not a big deal. People die all the time. Big deal. Like they've lowered it down to a misdemeanor and people aren't worried about going to prison for the rest of their lives. The murders in Missouri are very much concentrated in urban areas like St. Louis and Kansas City. Nearly 93 93% of the homicides in the state in 2019 were committed in metro areas, while less than 3/4 of the state's population live in those metro areas. In other words, you got a couple cities that suck so bad, it's just dragging down the rest of these good people. As long as St. Louis is within the borders of Missouri, they'll always be on lists like this. Number 6, Arkansas. There were 17,121 violent crimes in Arkansas in 2019. That breaks down to about 556 for every 100,000 residents in the state. That's a higher rate than all but 5 states in the country. Arkansas also has one of the highest incarceration rates in the country. There's just under 600 people in prison for every 100,000 residents in the state. That's the 4th highest incarceration rate. Arkansas is another state that goes big on rural crime. And that doesn't mean they don't have some cities that suck. They do. Pine Bluff is one of the most dangerous cities in the country, and Little Rock isn't far behind. The murder rate in Arkansas is 8.6 for every 100,000 residents. That's a horrible number, especially for a state that's, for the most part, rural and nice-looking land. You know, it's just too bad. One thing I want to say, though, most of the people in Arkansas are just hard-working, good people. You just have way too many a-holes. Number 5, Nevada. There's a lot Las Vegas, and all of Nevada has to offer its residents. Entertainment, excitement, STDs, heat stroke, better chances than most of becoming homeless, gambling, and possibly a bed that comes complete with a lid. That's because a lot of people get killed in Nevada. There were 16,667 violent crimes reported in Nevada in 2019, or 556.9 for every 100,000 residents. The incarceration rate in Nevada is 451 people per every 100,000 residents. That's a bunch. Number 4, Louisiana. Louisiana has the highest murder rate in the United States. Congratulations, Louisiana, you beat Mississippi at something. There were 12.2 murders in the state of Louisiana for every 100,000 residents in 2019. You know, now that I think of it, Mississippi's not even on this list. That is really strange. Anyway, there's a reason why Louisiana sucks. They have far too many scumbags. Sure, 90% of the residents are good people, go to work, come home, enjoy their life, but they just have too many scumbags putting out that extra effort. A lot of people say it's because Louisiana has some of the least restrictive gun laws in the country, and deadly violence is often carried out with firearms. Here's the deal. 99% of the people with firearms in this state and any other state are normal, level-headed people. The idiots that make up that other 1%, they get all the press. And 99% of the time, those are people that by law shouldn't have firearms in the first place. It's weird. But the stats don't look good either, for the murder rate at least. There were 10.5 murders committed with firearms in the state of Louisiana for every 100,000 residents in the last 5 years. Now, here's another thing. Their incarceration rate is the highest in the country. They have 718 people per 100,000 residents in jail right now, or that's a high number. Number 3, Tennessee. Tennessee is dangerous and violent. A lot of that comes from Memphis, which is a nightmare. Tennessee's violent crime rate is 651.5 reported incidents per every 100,000 residents. That's the 3rd highest among all the states, and oddly enough, it's 3rd on this list, which is kind of weird how that one worked out. Not really, but anyway, moving on. The high rate of violence in the state is driven largely by incidents of aggravated assault. Aggravated assault, there it is again. Has anyone ever heard of a comfort assault? I think they're all aggravated to some point. It's not always gun violence in this state. There were 478 aggravated assaults for every 100,000 residents in 2019. Violence, for the most part in Tennessee, is concentrated in the urban areas. Roughly 86% of all violent crimes and 91% of all the murders are committed in the metro areas of Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. But Memphis, by far, is the worst. Number 2, New Mexico. New Mexico sucks, and there's no getting around it. I mean, besides leading the country in poverty, it's got a whole host of other problems. They got great sunsets, though. You gotta love that. Anyway, New Mexico is one state where the violent crime rate is twice that of the national average. There were 785 reported violent crimes for every 100,000 residents in the state in 2019. Now, that's compared to 380 per 100,000 nationwide. Other types of crime, they're leading the country too. Property crimes. It's also very common. New Mexico also tops the list of states with the most break-ins. Way to go, New Mexico. You're doing great. See, when you have too much poverty, things like that happen. Crime is often more common in areas with limited economic opportunity. That's just a fact. In New Mexico, 5% of the labor force was out of work in 2018, and only 4.9 were out of work in 2019. So they got a little better, but not much. It's like 8 other people went back to work. That's what their numbers were like. And number 1, Alaska. And we finally get to the number 1 spot, the frontier state, Alaska. Alaska has the highest violent crime rate in the nation. Congratulations, Alaska, you suck. That doesn't count for moose attack either, which does happen. And it's real. It's real scary. There were 847 reported incidents of violent crime in the state of Alaska for every 100,000 residents in 2019. That's more than double the national average for violent crime. Violence in Alaska is not limited to crimes committed against others. Selfing is also a relatively common thing in this state. There were 25 for every 100,000 residents over the last 5 years, nearly double the 13.2 than that is the national average. Additionally, no state has a higher share of firearms-related selfing than Alaska. And on top of all that depressing news, Alaska leads the nation in domestic violence. Congratulations, Alaska. Nobody should move there. Actually, it's beautiful, and I mean, most of the people are really, really good people and decent people. They just got too much open land and too many idiots. Alright, so that is my top 10 most violent states. I hope Ray's satisfied. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget all the links below. Subscribe, buy a t-shirt on the links, whatever. Leave me a comment. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.